It got a little into itself. Colorado and Dion got a little into themselves last year. Shador and Dion. And
let me pose you a question.
A lot of noise.
Let me pose you a question about Colorado.
Oh, God.
Did Dion change at all from the day he was hired until today? Or did the outside expectations change based on the way that the season started? So basically I'm saying, did you change or did Dion change? You telling me he got all of a sudden he got full of himself? Really? Was that the case? Or is what you expected of him and his program different based on the way that they started the season?
Well, when you talk the game, I want to see you walk the game, and it felt like they were a little better at the PR than the football by the end of the season.
Okay, was a 400% increase in wins better?
Well,
they were a one-win team and totally irrelevant.
Yeah,
I think people forget about that. It's not like he took over some
but
juggernaut.
It is the NIL era. You should be able to improve pretty quickly.
And they did 400%. I don't know. Did you not hear what I just said?
I wasn't good at math.
400%. You know, a +3 in the win column, 4 wins from 1. It was a success. Now, did they fall short of even their own expectations? Yes. And he would have said that. And I thought that they let some games go that they should have won, and Stanford being one of them, and probably Oregon State being another. And now all of a sudden you're talking about a team that they feel like probably should have been a bowl team, and fell short of that. I would pose you this question. I have been accused of being a homer and an apologist for Colorado.
However, this journalist.
However, Shador, the quarterback, Dion's son, was sacked over 50 times last year. Mm-hmm. It was the clear weakness on a team that was very competitive if they protected the
they were bad up front.
They have totally rebuilt their offensive line through the transfer portal mainly, and getting Jordan Seaton, the #1 rated offensive tackle in the recruiting cycle last year. I'm just going to throw out a hypothetical. If they can now go from giving up over 50 sacks to giving up somewhere in the high 20s, which is still a lot. I'm not saying that they're the most dominant offensive line in college football. I'm saying that they're middle of the pack, average, high 20s in terms of sacks. Tell me where their win total goes in a schedule that's going to be far more easy, I would argue, than it was a year ago. You see, this is why I say, there's a path to 8 or 9 wins. And everyone's like, what are you talking about? Well,
look at their schedule.
Just look at it for a moment and think to yourself of the growth of the offensive line, what they are if he is upright in the pocket with the skill position players they have on the outside, and the schedule that they face. Far more difficult early than it is throughout the entirety of the schedule. It is not impossible, and I think that probably likely that Colorado wins at least 8 games, maybe more.
Okay, so let's talk about this, because I always found the whole Colorado and Dion thing very interesting to me for a few reasons. But this is what I think is going to happen with Colorado and Dion's like this. Listen, I think they're going to win more games, and they'll continue to grow as a college program. But it's going to be misleading because of the schedule and all of that. And they're going to be the Dallas Cowboys, essentially, where they're going to beat not so great teams, and they're going to talk it up like it's amazing. I remember the Thanksgiving game when the Cowboys beat the Commanders, and they were acting like they won the Super Bowl. They're like munching on turkey and dancing and acting like they just did the most amazing thing ever. And it was like, wow, congratulations. You guys beat a terrible football team. Like, good job. And they're going to talk it all up. And Dion is going to be barking at the media. You all doubted us, didn't you? You all doubted us. Blah, 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 blah. And he's going to talk it up and talk it up and talk it up and talk it up. And they're going to lose against the good teams, right? And if they do get a bowl game and it is against a good team, or if some crazy situation where they get into the college playoffs, they're going to lose against the good to great teams. That's what's going to happen, because that's essentially what happened last season even. And I know obviously it's different players, right? It's very different when you're talking about college programs versus professional programs. But it's just going to be more fool's gold is really what I'm trying to say. And Dion is going to be all bark, all of this. He's going to try to bring that same energy and be like, I kept receipts. He's going to say, I kept receipts, but then also, I don't pay attention to what anyone has to say. Oh, I only follow God. And it's like, you just said you kept receipts, and Now you're saying that you don't listen to anyone else. Like, that doesn't really make sense. So he's always been a massive hypocrite to me. Massive. And I think also last season they tried to turn this into like the biggest thing. They tried to turn this into a phenomenon. They tried to turn, Deion in Colorado into what Taylor Swift was doing with the NFL, or what Caitlin Clark was doing with college basketball, and now the WNBA, right? Like, that's what they were trying to happen with Deion. And it definitely had a flavor of that. Like, Deion was taking over, and they were all buying into it, and Colin was buying into it. And that's why now Colin is being tough with Joel, because he's pretty much like, I bought into that hype, and I got burned. Like, I had egg on my face. I looked a little silly now because I was saying, hey, Deion turned this program around. Look how amazing Colorado is, only for them to falter. And he had to admit that, right? Like, Colin had to genuinely admit that. And I was always skeptical, but it's not like I have some genius ability to predict these things. But I think what also the media, because they were kind of talking as well before about, the media, specifically like Fox and ESPN, ABC, like all these networks, like they need this. Like, that's how they make their money, is all of this, box office, just like these big numbers, big personalities, big games. They were saying earlier how these networks like want 7-game series, right? Like, that's what they want, like, because that's where the money is, right? Like, they need it. They need the content, they need the views, they need it all. That's how everyone gets paid. So obviously them talking up Colorado and having those games be in prime time and all of this is big. It's good money, it's good business. But this is what's going to happen from my viewpoint. They're going to try to do it again, especially with Colorado maybe winning some games and getting some momentum. And they're going to try so hard to recapture what they did last year. And it's just not going to happen. Same thing what's going to happen this year in the NFL with Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is still going to be at the games, and they're going to try to act like it's a big deal, and it's just not going to have that same level of impact. It's just not. It's why the Women's Olympic Committee for basketball completely dropped the ball, because the Caitlin Clark phenomenon is only going to last so long, right? Like, this is when it's at peak hysteria. The iron is hot, and you have to strike, and they dropped that ball, which I've talked about extensively. And so they already had that big, massive Deion bump, and it's just not going to be there. And they're going to try so hard to do it. And it's still going to exist, just like people are still going to care that Taylor Swift is in the stands, or, in the box seats or whatever, but it's just not going to hit the same. And the people that are annoyed with it are going to continue to be annoyed with it, and they're going to just be like, whatever, this is so dumb. And the people that cared a lot are going to be like, yeah, okay, whatever. And you're going to still have some of the people that really, really cared. They'll continue to care, but it's just not going to land as much as it did. And I just think that they're going to try so hard. And this is reminiscent to me with Kevin Durant. And this will make sense, I promise. Right? Kevin Durant had this famous MVP speech where he was like, he was talking about his mom, and he started crying, and he said, you're the real MVP. And it was just, again, it was just great. It was just great media. It was just great. I don't want to say film, because it's obviously not film, but it was just great content to see this star at the top of his career, at the peak of his career, crying, thanking his mom, saying, you're the real MVP. It was a beautiful moment. And the media and the fans and everyone just loved it and ate it all up. Now fast forward, and he wins an NBA championship, NBA finals, right? He wins with the Golden State Warriors. And now they interview him when he's on the state, like on the court, and they try so hard to get him to cry again, to talk about his mom. What about your mom? What does your mom mean in this moment? And he was just like, yeah, it was really special. It's really great. I definitely owe a lot to her, and thank you so much. Yeah. And what about your mom? Does it make you emotional thinking about your mom? And they wanted it so bad, and they tried to do it, and Kevin wouldn't give it to them, because in that moment he didn't feel it. In the moment of the MVP, he was overwhelmed with just joy and love and admiration for his mom. The NBA Finals, that was, I'm sure he still had it, but he wasn't in that emotional state, and they wanted it so badly. They tried to get it out of him. They tried to trigger him, like literally, and it just wouldn't happen. And they tried multiple times, and it just wouldn't happen. And I think that's what they're going to try to, what's going to happen with Colorado. They're going to try to push it and push it and push it, and they're going to realize that people just do not care as much. And, I'm all for that. Same thing with like the Taylor Swift and any of that nonsense. They're going to keep trying to like make jokes and highlight her, and they're going to realize that people do not care. They do not care. And the people that do care, they don't matter because they're not actually NFL fans. And kind of same thing with college football. They're going to see that a lot of the people that he brought in to watch college football that don't normally watch college football, they're going to fall off now. So the people that already watch college football, that hate Deion and want to root against Deion, they're going to continue to watch. And the people that love Deion and love Colorado, they're going to continue to watch. But what falls off are the people who are just like, oh yeah, Deion is now coaching Colorado. That'll be interesting. I'll watch, right? That this coming season, it's just not going to have that same energy. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Deion? Do you agree with Joel Klatt that they could maybe win like 9-10 games? Or do you think it's just going to be more all bark and no bite? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.